to Afterthoughts, everybody. This is our Recommend or Refute episode. I have made it out of the fires of Schlocktober, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Ryan King.
How's it going? What's the frying pan of November then if you're out of the fire?
Well, I ease into the Noir-vember vibes. It's not as much a frying pan as a recovery plan. It's a rehabilitation center. Or an asylum, I guess.
It's the burn ward of...
Yeah, it's the burn ward. I'm throwing the salve of good cinema onto my eyes.
John did come over to my house a few days after Schlocktober ended, and we watched a John Ford movie. So he has watched at least one good movie since the onslaught of Schlock.
And we did great Jimmy Stewart impressions. So we had a fun time imagining what he would be like in the Dune universe. Just one of my favorite things. Or him in Gran Torino, which is even funnier somehow. Also joining us, Michael Dixon.
Yeah, excited to hear more about your Schlocktober adventures, John.
Yeah, I'm excited to remember what I forgot. We'll kick things off with you, Ryan. What did you watch recently?
Yeah, still looking for family bullshit to watch with my family.
Good thing you're not watching family bullshit alone, I suppose.
Yeah.
You
I
could
guess.
be watching Yes Day All Alone. That's how I'll know you snapped. You're watching Jennifer Garner Netflix movies.
Just drinking an entire bottle of bourbon while watching a shitty family Netflix movie.
He's like more Oral's dad, where he's taking shots of whiskey, and every time he takes a swig, he's like, still awful.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Getting better.
Just keep doing it. Yes, trying to find something else. I was like, all right, let's go back and revisit some Jim Carrey movies. I'm not quite sure what made me think of it. Decided to watch Liar Liar.
What do you say we get down to business?
Your Honor, I would like a continuance.
What's the problem?
I can't lie.
Hi. Max's birthday party.
Tonight?
Yes.
I completely forgot.
You know, the cold case is worth a truckload of money to this firm. If you win, I guarantee you'll make partner. You're not busy tonight, are you?
Lecture, where are you?
Listen, I'm really sorry, but I just can't make it. At his birthday party, he made a wish that I wouldn't be able to lie.
Afternoon, Consuls. Mr. Reed, you may proceed. Mr. Reed, it is out of sheer morbid curiosity I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't think I've seen it all the way through before. Just kind of like know it. I'm not sure that I ever like sat down and was like, I'm going to watch this. Probably because the core of the movie is just a bullshit dad didn't show up to my baseball game kind of movie, which I already have Hook, so I don't know why I would need that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we already have Jingle All the Way for Christmas.
Yeah.
We have Hook for, the summertime. We're covered.
I will say the first thing I saw when I saw Carrie Lewis is the stepdad was like, oh, is this another one of those where he's a perfectly normal functioning, if not better, father that we're just going to shit on because
he's the stepdad.
Because he's a stepdad, yeah. That's the Miss Doubtfire.
Yes.
Like, we're supposed to really feel like he's a fuck up, but we only ever see him be nice to everyone.
Do you know there's a French version of Mrs. Doubtfire called Madame Doubtfire?
Oh,
sorry, that's just a fun side. You can go find that later, Ryan. That's for
that's one of those remakes or whatever that no one needed.
It's starring Gerard Depardieu.
Starring an aged Jerry Lewis.
I was going to say, is it Jerry Lewis? It's a reverse flubber, which Jerry Lewis is now stealing Robin Williams' role. I was surprised how much the plot of Liar Liar is just about sex and references to sex. I don't know why I thought, it's rated PG-13 and I get it, and like Jim Carrey movies are rated PG-13, but I kind of thought it was there'd be wink, wink, nod, nods, but it's like the whole fucking court case that he's over for the day is about affairs and Jennifer Tilly's character trying to get money / I guess her kids. Initially, she wasn't interested in getting her kids, but then she is later. Where the evidence that's entered is a recording of her having sex
I've forgotten so much about this movie.
Yes,
but
yeah,
I saw it
absolutely.
so much as a kid.
I think everyone has forgotten everything about this movie. Yes. Two major plot points are Jim Carrey doesn't show up to his kid's birthday because he's having sex with a lady in his office.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah, which he then lies about, but then later is compelled to tell the truth because of movie magic. Yeah, he can't lie. Yeah, and then the whole court case that we work around is just constantly like talking about sex. So I was really kind of like, all right, I've finally gone over the limit of these movies where I just have to give up and be like, I guess I've made my kids into adults now and we're done.
I just accepted. All right, kids, time to watch Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, we're giving up.
You might as well just jump to NC-17 at this point.
Yeah, Showgirls it is.
Yes, right. Yeah, at least we'll watch a good movie. We'll watch Showgirls. It really is just as stupid as the plot description is of he's a lawyer, he lies for a day he can't, so he just says shit.
Weird is it's almost like a Rob Schneider plot, right? Like,
yeah, well, I think this...
Rob Schneider is a Carrey.
Honestly, like anyone else but Jim Carrey or Robin Williams, and this would be an absolutely forgettable, fucking terrible movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because of the ad-libbing to get to what they got to, right? Like, there's no way that the script is 100% became this movie. Like, it was probably not funny, and through multiple takes, Jim Carrey got it to something funny for every single scene that he's in. But there's just nothing there, and it's like funny in the moment, but it's just that like like each way along. There's never really anything that's like a truly transcendent funny piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, as the palate cleanser, I was like, well then fucking let's watch some other Jim Carrey movie. We'll watch The Mask, because I remember having watched that and it being funny and not being all about sex. Granted, I knew that there's like catcalling or whatever.
The awooga scene?
Well, yeah, but I was like, that's like Looney Tunes does that. Like that's, Tex Avery. They're referencing that anyway, and that's acceptable. That's G-rated, I guess. Sure. We've watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, again, I've already gone over I've already pushed it, which is...
There's a Simpsons episode where they do a Tex Avery joke like that, and Homer goes, "Oh my God, wolves are stealing all of our women."
I forgot how just like fucking nothing there is to The Mask.
Hey, puts on the mask and he just becomes Jim Carrey.
Yeah, it's okay. Honestly, yeah. The weirder part is it has that like Batman Returns feel of like a fake city that is kind of based on noir something ? Like it has this weird lost in time feel to the city and the people around it, and this like deadness beyond like the immediate characters that we have.
Like,
it's just
like
so
styrofoam
weird.
Studio sets type of a thing.
It's like that big graphic kind of scaled soundstage.
And then every time we're outside, we're outside and it's obviously like a soundstage outside, but anytime we do shots of the city, it's like a matte painting, like a weirdly stylized matte painting of the city kind of thing that just like makes no sense. So I guess it's supposed to just like take place in this cartoony world. Yeah, sort of. And then it really just does feel like it's like excuses to just be like, all right, Jim Carrey, fucking do something, like entertain us, monkey, and they just let him loose and see what happens. And again, I'm like, this only works because Jim Carrey's fun, and it's like that window. And this whole thing, I was trying to stay away from Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and now maybe I've like backed myself into that corner. Because now I'm like, now I need to know. I need to like open up that like last bit of Pandora's box and see if
Ryan,
maybe
don't look back. You'll turn to a pillar of salt.
Yes. I'm like, was anything in that time period that Jim Carrey did actually anything, or was it all like we actually just found Jim Carrey funny and it didn't matter what he did? Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably that. But I mean, Dumb and Dumber's still good, I think.
I rewatched Dumb and Dumber with the kids. I didn't rewatch it with Darla home. That was one of those Darla wasn't home. We watched something that I slightly regretted the appropriateness of, but was more appropriate than Liar Liar. I'm going to give that to Dumb and Dumber.
Definitely. Yeah.
In Liar Liar, doesn't Jim Carrey like motorboat somebody?
He says he wants to.
Oh, sorry. Well, I haven't seen Liar Liar since I was a kid. And I remember him wanting to.
Yes, he makes 3 comments about a lady's giant tracts of land.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber has the decency to put headlights over its boobs.
That's right. Yes. Of course.
It's just like Christmas Vacation level of inappropriate about women.
Yeah.
I think Dumb and Dumber has a script that has jokes in it.
That's true. Yes.
And it's like it's written so that like
comedians.
an actor could play that role and just act it and read the lines, and it could be funny, right? Like the Jim Carrey vehicles that he's in, where it's just like it just exists to put him in the lead role and just shoot film and see what happens. Like those movies feel very light on script and just him fucking around trying to make something happen. And you end up with some very entertaining scenes from it. Like Ace Ventura has some very memorable lines and entertaining scenes, but it's like, I don't know how much of that is written on the page, and how even to the point that some of it is, he's having to exaggerate it so much and go like way over the top in everything that he's doing in order to make it funny, because it just becomes beyond absurd where you kind of have to laugh at it at that point. Liar Liar is a little more grounded, but he's like kind of going crazy as he's, trying to resist the urge to tell the truth, but like The Mask and Ace Ventura is just like Carrey on cocaine, off the leash, doing whatever the fuck he wants. And there are things that work about that, but like they're not really fully fleshed out movies,
And I think that's where I'm like, Mrs. Doubtfire is funny and it fucking says something. And I think then it has the balls to not just like put mom and dad back together at the end of it. Really is something else too, right? Like that's really interesting. And I agree. I like Dumb and Dumber is like funny. Like there's legit things that are funny, like plays on words, shit like that. I still do think selling a dead parrot to a blind kid like is funny in concept on paper, regardless of who is doing it. Right?
It was real quiet.
Yeah. News report. Yeah. Oh God. It's just great. Yeah. Just that dialogue and the way that's crafted. But yeah, to Dixon's point, like most of those other Carrey vehicles, they feel like it's a Hollywood exec or a writer, I guess. It could just be anybody. Fucking, they just did a line of coke and they took a shot of something and then they just wrote on the back of the napkin, Jim Carrey can't lie, is a lawyer, like, and his
sexy
son fucking does whatever sexy shit. Go. And The Mask is like Jim Carrey finds a mask, has to be crazy, and like
becomes true self.
Is unleashed, as opposed to the more well-crafted of the 90s, which is like The Truman Show. You have Dumb and Dumber, like that's the comedy side. Truman Show is like much more serious and introspective.
Man on the Moon.
Man on the Moon. Even The Cable Guy, which isn't a great movie, it still had more that it was trying to contain.
There's
was almost
some
meta
heart
in how it was trying to be annoyed by Jim Carrey.
Yeah, right. There's kind of like a little bit of a heart to it and something, right, of a story of characters and character growth.
Yeah. But like, these other movies, it makes me think of like Jim Carrey is like a more tolerable Adam Sandler to me in like his movies. I don't know. I haven't seen like Billy Madison or Waterboy in a long time, but I feel like they didn't age well either.
Happy Gilmore still holds up.
Oh, okay, well, nice.
I think Happy Gilmore is solid.
I would watch that. I mean, Carl Weathers is in it, so I'll watch, for sure.
Goddamn alligator bit my head off.
We watched Billy Madison recently, and it was honestly still pretty good.
Pretty good? Okay.
I don't think it's
quite
as good.
There's like a few Sandler films that I'm like, okay. But like, I feel like even past a certain point, with the exception of like Mr. Popper's Penguins or whatever the fuck he did, and like the number 23, Jim Carrey can still be like really funny. Whereas like now I feel like Adam Sandler's only good in dramas, and any comedy that's from him has never changed since The Waterboy. It's just like all kind of that same. He doesn't really go above and beyond. He mostly just bullies people or makes bullying comments. And Jim Carrey's always just been a physical actor who just wants to do wild, crazy shit. He's like the Nick Cage of comedy. I would love to see him and Nicolas Cage play brothers in a movie, maybe. I feel like they would try to one-up each other for some reason. But like that's kind of the vibe that I get. And going back to these movies, I feel like it's gonna, I don't know, I'm just gonna get the same. I'm gonna have the same reaction that you had probably, Ryan, where it's like some of this is like kind of funny, good moments, but I don't know. I've seen Liar Liar like several times on TBS. I think that's like the only time I remember seeing it after I watched it in theaters.
I can't imagine how long that movie was like to get edited to TBS.
Yeah, seriously.
I feel like TBS plays that movie a lot.
Yeah, it's like that, and I don't fucking like. They probably play Ace Ventura. They're like, it's a Jim Carrey marathon with mostly Ace Ventura.
It's called the Jim Carrey-thon.
Yeah, Jim Carrey. But yeah, like that. I do want to watch it again. It's weird because when you were talking about him having a son, and I started to remember that, for some reason I remembered his son makes the birthday wish, and I always associate that with Blade Runner 2049 because the daughter of the like girl that's trapped in the chamber that makes memories makes a birthday memory. And when I saw that movie, my brain was like, liar, liar. And I was like, what the fuck? Why would you say that to me?
Was there a kid with a bowl cut in Blade Runner 2049 memory?
That's right. But that's like the only thing I really remember about it is that there was, man, the 90s was a time for kids to be abandoned by fathers.
And have bowl cuts.
Yeah, and have bowl cuts. It was just all over the place.
Bowl cuts were a thing. Yeah, I think it was that, like,
what else am I going to do with this bowl?
Right. Now the like latchkey era, right? Yeah. There was a lot of like, oh, now both parents are working, and it did seem like a lot of the media became obsessed with and there was a spike in divorces, so it seemed like a lot of the media became obsessed with the parents are never home and or divorcing or what. Like, there's so much.
Yeah, in the 80s, if it was like a dad or something, they're like the mom died or like the dad.
Right, I was going to say versus the death of the earlier generations. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Walt Disney is responsible for that.
Yeah.
He killed those families?
Oh, no. Yeah.
No wonder they froze his corpse and hid him somewhere. Didn't want to face trial or have an open grave where people could get there.
In Disney's defense, the guy who rode Bambi was a deer hunter. Like it was like a major game hunter. Yeah, he was the deer hunter. And
the deer hunter was later.
Yeah.
He really wanted that Desi Mel scene.
My Vietnam
the real
was
Bambi
hunting
mother
that
died
deer in the woods.
Yeah. Bambi's mother really died in a Russian roulette accident.
Played it right with the hunter. Oh my God. Well, Ryan, what did you learn from your time watching both of these Jim Carrey movies?
It's that, like, I'm amazed that these are cultural touchstones. Like, The Mask is something that I feel like still kind of gets quoted, right? It's that, like, a couple of those lines that honestly
Somebody stop me.
Yeah, right? Or, like, probably most of us saw in the trailer and didn't even really see the movie kind of thing. Yep. And just that, like, Jim Carrey kind of just transcends some things, right? That it's interesting that this is even in the zeitgeist, and it's only because of Carrey's abilities. Going back and watching Robin Williams stuff, other than Popeye, they're usually good and or better than I remembered, right? Like that's what's kind of interesting in the choices.
Even Flubber?
Well, any of the Disney remake, literally anything.
Oh, okay, sure.
This just doesn't count. Those aren't movies.
I liked Flubber when I was a kid because it had basketball in it.
Yeah,
the guys would jump really high.
It had that part where the flubber came out of his butt.
Carrey's such a unique talent. Like, I think that's why those movies did well, right? Because he was just bursting onto the scene in the early to mid 90s, and he is such a, like, there's nobody else like Jim Carrey in the history of like filmed entertainment, you know, that can really do the cartoonish shit that he does. And I feel like there was just such a high of, oh my God, can you believe this shit? This guy's crazy. And then after that wore off, you know, we kind of got wise to that, and those movies became harder to make, and he had to start doing serious work, or at least just stuff with a plot that made sense, right? Like, you know, like Bruce Almighty is a comedy where he gets to kind of do his Jim Carrey thing, but there's a plot to it and like a story that builds. And I don't know if that movie's good or not. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
But he does a good Clint Eastwood impression. That much I know.
Oh, he does for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at least built around something. There's like no substance. These two are probably the least substanced of the things that he's worked on.
Yeah.
Well,
are you recommending either of them, or
No.
is this
refuting both?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I think if it's like you're of a younger generation and you're like, oh, look at these old Jim Carrey things. Like, no. Yeah, watch the ones where he's a serious actor, because he's funny in them too, and it's fine. And then watch like In Living Color, like just look some excerpts and you're good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. Stay away from some of Jim Carrey's movies. There's really good dramas out there. He does really good serious pieces.
Yeah,
He
absolutely does. Yeah.
And he can crush it in comedies when it's got good writing, and he's kind of kept a little bit in bounds. But yeah, Dixon, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so my mom was in town this past weekend, and we decided to watch a movie, and my mom likes old Hollywood type of stuff, and we settled on a 1953 Hitchcock film called I Confess.
Why were you being blackmailed?
You don't care whom I hurt, just so long as I answer all your questions.
I only want to clear a murder.
Caught in the tangled web of murder, 3 people confess the secrets that torture their souls. But in the echoes and shadows of the ancient city of Quebec, Canada, walks a man who knows the whole terrifying truth, but can never tell all the strange things his ears have heard. For he is sworn to silence. Grim silence that points the finger of suspicion at him. Crushing silence that brings him the contempt of the people who loved and respected him. Deadly silence that leads him to the 13 steps of the gallows.
Starring Montgomery Clift, Ann Baxter, O.E. Hass, and the great Carl Malden. I Confess follows the story of a murderer who, in the first scene of the movie, he murders his victim and then walks into a Catholic church and confesses to the priest, like right off the bat. The priest, played by Montgomery Clift, now knows this information, but is bound by the secrecy of the confessional. There are some little girls that see a man leaving the murder scene wearing a priest outfit, and the detectives go around the city trying to identify, okay, like where were all these priests at the time of this murder? The priest in the lead of the story is the only priest in the whole city that cannot account for his whereabouts at the time of the murder, and thus becomes the lead suspect in the killing. But he can't say anything about it to clear his name. So it's a really interesting concept. I thought it was it's kind of cool. I was kind of surprised I haven't seen that done in movies before or since. Because I thought it was a cool story concept. But basically, the movie is kind of like, now you know, it's classic Hitchcock suspense. You know what happened right away, but now you're seeing the story unfold as the characters are trying to piece together what actually occurred on that night, who the murderer was, what happened, why, you know, the priest ends up having a motivation for the murder, but, you know, like following through this whole story as you're looking at like, oh my God, is this priest gonna have to go to jail because he can't tell the cops what actually happened and where he was during all this. It's in black and white. 53 is like, you know, Hitchcock, I think had done some color stuff at the time, but this one was still black and white. It looks incredible, really great Hitchcock cinematography, moving cameras. It's set in Quebec City, and it's like, I'm not sure where it was shot, but you're following, it's a lot of stuff that's shot on location. You're following these characters around as they're going throughout the city. Montgomery Clift is a little stiff in the role. I haven't seen him in a lot of things, honestly, but he's a very stoic character in this, and I do wish that there was maybe a little bit more of an engaging actor in that lead role, but I love Carl Malden, and he's great as the detective trying to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot of really tense scenes between Carl Malden and Montgomery Clift as he's interrogating him. and clearly thinks he's the murderer, and he's kind of slowly giving out bits of information that he knows, trying to get Montgomery Clift to confess or to tell him more of what's going on. It almost feels kind of Tarantino-y, like Inglourious Bastards kind of negotiations, very high tension as the characters are trying to piece together everything that happened with this mystery and figure out what was going on. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Classic Hitchcock thriller. I'm kind of surprised that it isn't held in higher regard in Hitchcock's filmography. I know that he's made a lot of stuff, and it's just things get lost in the shuffle when you've made dozens of movies, many of which are very good. But I really enjoyed I Confess, and would definitely recommend that people check it out.
I always wonder, because the priest confessional thing is like a plot point in, I feel like, a number of movies where they're like, hey, you told the priest and the priest can't tell anybody. I wonder if that's just a sting. Like, that's just some bullshit that the Catholic Church circulates.
I would imagine that in some countries that can't be a thing, right? Like like legally, the country's laws would have to respect that like right of the Catholic Church, right? And I'm not sure that all of them do, but yeah, in Canada apparently they do, at least in this movie, or they at least the priest feels like he can't say what he knows, right? It's not that he doesn't claim attorney-client privilege.
Right.
He just won't say what he knows because he views it as a violation of his oath as a priest.
Has there been an Onion headline about the NSA installing a backdoor in the priest confessionals?
Oh, I hope so.
That just seems like it's ripe for that.
Or the NSA like ordaining all of their spies so that therefore they don't have to tell anything. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So where does this rank for you on your Hitchcock scale? I don't think that we've ever talked about your listing of Hitchcock movies.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely not at the very top. I think Notorious is my favorite Hitchcock movie. We've talked about Vertigo, which I think is a better movie from a technical standpoint, but I didn't like the story as much as I liked I Confess. I don't know. I mean, I would say it's up there, like top 5, top 10 Hitchcocks. I thought it was really great. I thought it was a lot better than some of the movies that I've seen of him that have gotten a lot of acclaim, like The Lady Vanishes, some of his earlier work that people are really into. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think, some of his stuff is a little overrated. The Man Who Knew Too Much, both versions, I think, are worse than I Confess.
The Birds.
The Birds is good, but I Confess, I think it's higher. I Confess is probably top 5 for me. Hitchcock,
yeah. I feel like just in premise alone, it sounds much more like, really, like, how do you deal with that situation? But The Birds is literally just like, my God, the birds.
Yeah,
they're like killing people, sort of. Like,
and the story it's more complex than that. It continues to unfold, and like I feel like I can't say too much more. It starts to give things away, but there's a lot of weird relationships around the murder victim and reasons that different people might have for killing him, and the priest is connected to multiple of them for different reasons, and has other relationships that may or may not be in violation of his oath as a priest, and there's a lot of stuff going on that comes together in a pretty interesting story.
Very cool.
Like 39 Steps.
I Confess much better than the 39 Steps, I think. Yeah.
Rope.
Much better than Rope.
Rope. Okay, then that's definitely, yeah. So I think that, Hitchcock's so prolific, right? And that this isn't necessarily as big as stars as some of the other things. I think that sometimes get attention just because of who's in them. I will say Clift and Baxter are only 3 years apart, so that's at least more comfortable than most Hitchcock movies.
For sure. Yeah. Montgomery Clift did look way too handsome to be a priest, I think. Felt a little out of place.
All right. Well, there you have it, everybody. It's a recommendation for I Confess.
If you like Hitchcock, The Trouble with Harry, I think, is actually pretty bad. I did not like The Trouble with Harry.
There's a lot of trouble with Harry.
It's like a zany comedy that
it's totally different.
Did
from
Hitchcock try to do a Preston Sturges screwball?
Kind of.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, that's kind of closer to what it is.
Yeah, the ticking time bomb of love.
I didn't think it worked. But yeah, no. If you're into Hitchcock, I think it's one that people don't really talk about that is very good and worth checking out. So
I actually will have to check that out because I like Hitchcock stuff, but it'd be good to see something I haven't seen of his.
Very cool.
Cool.
Well, I guess that brings it to me, and we were talking about this before, but I want to do a retrospective on Schlocktober because I've watched so many movies. I'm not going to run through this list of like 31, but y'all help me kind of source some questions. And I would, I don't know if anybody wants to ask me those or if I'm just supposed to read through them, but I'm out of the woods. Okay. I'm out of my 31 days of self-inflicted torture. Dixon and I watched The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I keep saying The Man Who Shot JD Vance.
Nope.
And it's not.
Yeah, no one has done that. Don't manifest that shit.
I'm not trying to.
We don't need him coming in here.
Yeah, we don't need any of that. I don't need attention here. But and like I'm back to good movies now, mostly. I did watch Dracula 2000 and 3000, so that's its own thing. But yeah, so I've learned. Please ask me whatever questions you have about this experience, I suppose, and I'm going to try to produce my answers.
Okay. How do you feel like this experience compared to your previous Schlocktober experiences? This is what your like fourth year doing this?
This is my fourth year. I think that I'm looking back on it now. I think the second year I did Schlocktober was the strongest year of Schlocktober. This year felt pretty weak, but thankfully it wasn't as terrible as the first year I did it. And it wasn't, I don't know. The third year I don't remember a whole lot about. I think I'm starting to like lose my memory each October. I'm just like, I watched that. Like, I keep thinking we watched Ninja Terminator like last year, but that was like 2 years ago. Shriek of the Mutilated was 2 years ago.
Oh, yes.
I was like, wow, all of these movies that I remember fondly. So yeah, I would say in my ranking, number 4 ranks number 2, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I found some really rad movies along the way. Like Mortal Engines, which I recommended, I think last episode or the previous recommended Refute.
What was your favorite and least favorite movie of Schlocktober?
So my favorite movie had to have been Magic Crystal. That's a 1986 martial arts movie starring Cynthia Rothrock. I love Cynthia Rothrock. I've kind of come around on her martial arts is kick-ass, and it is the movie that asks, what if E.T. had a shit ton more martial arts in it? And that's what I can get behind, you know? It's bonkers.
Does the alien do martial arts?
The alien does not. The alien is like a rock with like 6 little turtle legs and a weird ass clam tongue.
Like googly eyes stuck to it.
It's got like, it's no googly eyes, but it manifests a finger that looks oddly like a penis. And it tries to get people to shake its hand so that it can bestow them with magical powers. They have a bunch of shenanigans in between the martial arts. Like the alien makes one dude's hands his feet and his feet his hands. And then they have a whole scene where he's trying to convince people he's just doing yoga and like trying to look normal. They have like a kick-ass fight scene that happens in an open patio that's just full of like white plastic chairs, and the martial artist like jumping over and riding on those chairs and kicking people and tipping them over. And it's just like fucking great action all around and really dumb plots involving a family that's trying to get the alien back to where it belongs. And they're chased by Russians, and the Russians, one of them is the fucking dude from Jim Carrey. It's the like villain from Jim Carrey. And so I was very happy to see
Two-Face?
It's is it Two-Face? Is that
the masked man?
The masked man? No, not the masked man. Is that the dude? Which fuck? I'm
talking about the dude that turns around and he.
Oh no, not that guy. Not that guy. I was like, Two-Face. He's not in. It's not that. That's our favorite villain. I'm talking about fucking Lin-Manuel Hercules.
Yes.
Yeah, as we all know. So yeah, like that was my favorite, my most fond, and my least favorite is a movie called Intrepidos Punks. Intrepidos Punks is like a punksploitation Spanish film in which a gang of punks who happen to be Intrepidos just roll around town fucking people up. That's like all, and it has the most. It has, you know, when we watch Compañeros and they would play like Compañeros, like they just did that song over and over again, and you were like, man, they're really bottom of the barrel with this Ennio Morricone stuff. This has the same kind of like rally cry, but it's just like a punk rock band that plays really hard, and then they just go Intrepidos Punks, and it's like all they do anytime that they roll around and driving around town, which is like 90% of the film. So yeah, that movie, Sasha watched part of it with me. She zoned out for most of it, and I was like, when are we gonna get to the fireworks factory? Like, when do they kill anybody or do anything cool? Its heroes also totally sucked. It was like the sheriff of this town, and he was trying to save his wife, but he was also having an affair with a woman and was trying to like bring her along for the adventure and working with his best friend to like solve the Intrepidos Punks crimes. And they were like the dumbest guys that made the terrible decisions. And I just was like, there's nobody to root for in this movie. And the theme song is annoying as shit. So they made a sequel. I didn't watch it.
Oh
no.
But it's like the revenge of Intrepidos Punks. So,
what was the most like soul doubting? Was there anything where you had to pause and like come back later or give up on humanity? Or
it's between an Ed Wood film and fuck, what is his name? The guy who does like, hold on, I need to look it up real quick.
Did you see that AFS is showing Glenn or Glenda?
I did. I wish I could go see it, but it's happening right now.
Yeah, it is happening right
now. It was between the Ed Wood film Take It Out and Trade and this Vernon Chapman written film called Final Flesh. But the difference being the Ed Wood Take It Out and Trade is just like a sexploitation film overall. And so most of that movie, I'm sitting there while people are like, it's X-rated too, so there's softcore banging.
Oh.
And it's like the Bunny Lebowski story, basically. It's like, hey, this girl, her parents are like worried about her, the Knutsons on the farm, and they want you to go find her. This detective has to go find her, and the detective spends the entire movie watching other people fuck from like behind a plant, and that's most of the movie. This contains also the most memorable scene of any movie this month that I watched, the Schlocktober month, which is a couple just starts fucking on a pool table. Which, you know, sure, as you do. And that's also when I was starting to contemplate my life, Ryan. And what
yeah, that's what I wanted to know. When your soul really...
That's when my soul was starting to leave. But then a guy is trying to play through on the pool table. He's just fucking hitting balls around these people fucking, and the camera's like following the ball. And I was just like, I don't know what Ed Wood is going for.
Oh, sorry, ma'am, that's the wrong pocket.
But like Sasha walked in on me at that moment watching that scene. And I was like, this is exactly what it looks like. So yeah, it's between that and then the entirety of Final Flesh, which was Vernon Chapman hired 4 independent porn production studios and had their porn troupe act out his screenplay. And it feels like the kind of movie you'd watch in a frat, Ryan, where it's like, haha, we paid these porn people to do this fucking crazy shit. And it's like, he wrote an art house level script where they're like, I'm giving up my love for you. And they like pour a symbolic bucket of angel tears on somebody. And it's like labeled as such.
Is it just a big bucket of semen?
No, I think it's just water, probably. They don't do anything that sexual. They get naked, but like then they have like spaghetti on their crotch or some shit weird. Somebody has to like, one girl's like, I have to bring this man back to life. And she pulls his zipper down and pulls a hot dog out and takes a bite of it. And he's like, no, you bit my soul. Like it has those scenes, but it's an hour and 10 minutes of that. And that was really when I was like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know if movies are fun.
What is the Final Flesh?
I don't know what the Final Flesh is. The plot itself describes it as a posthumous like examination of 4 families caught in the nuclear holocaust of the future. I don't think that it's any of that shit. It's none of that shit. I really don't know. I still don't know what it was. And I don't think that Vernon Chapman really know, other than I could pay porn people to do this. And they did it. And I was just kind of like, I feel bad, but okay. So yeah.
Interesting. Given that this was made by porn companies, what percentage of the movies that you watched during Schlocktober turned out to just be porn?
I think it was like, it really is just take it out and trade. But the ones that rode that line, despite Final Flesh being porn actors, it didn't really try to do anything. The Vampire Woman versus Werewolf, which is like the first movie I watched. Go figure. It's some kind of like exploitation Italian, or maybe it's a Spanish movie, where there's a vampire woman who's hot and she's seducing women, and the werewolf is also kind of hot and seducing women. And that's basically the plot. That's all you need to know, is that they fight each other for women's souls.
The werewolf is hot. It's like
wolfed
out, or is a hot person that
when
werewolves?
He's like a regular dude, he's kind of when he's a regular dude, he's supposedly hot.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's not hot. Okay, he's like an Italian dude in the '60s hot, and that's like not. I don't know. He just kind of looks like a priest. I don't know how else to describe it. He looks like the most boring kind of priest. He has like a comb over and some other, like he's got a button up black suit, and he just walks around the grounds being like, I'm cursed forever. I can't tell anybody about my secret, what I've been doing, or why I have these shackles in my basement.
I don't think anyone who can turn into a werewolf would have a comb over. That doesn't make any sense.
Right? It doesn't. So
I feel like you have like extra hair if you can turn into a werewolf.
But they have a whole scene where he's like, they have a whole scene where he goes shirtless too, and he's just got more hair there than he did on his head, and I'm just like, what is going on? This werewolf man.
Do you know that that's the 5th in a series of movies?
I did not, but I could see it, I suppose. They used a lot of slow motion in it, which was surprising to me.
So that one was porn.
It was porn. I just basically, it felt like porn. They had a lot of boobs for like no reason. Anytime the werewolf flayed people alive, he killed the men really fast and he ripped the shirts off of women. So I'm just gonna,
all right,
just gonna chalk it up.
I don't know that counts.
I mean, you did.
When you say, is it porn or not, I'm not actively going to the porn shelf for these movies.
I know you're not seeking out porn to watch, but
Tubi.
how much of them turned out to have unsimulated sex in them?
Oh, just take it out and trade then.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
So 1 out of 31. That's 3%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't see dick in anything else.
You shouldn't have told me about this, John, because now that I know that there's Dose Hombre Lobo films.
Oh no,
not Hombre Lobos.
There's 12 of them?
Yes. The latest being 2004.
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm a little concerned.
Sorry, Ryan.
That I'm going to go down this hole.
Don't you do it, Ryan. Okay, I think the only other questions y'all asked me were like, we kind of queued up were like best performance, worst performance, and the movie I watched that turned out to not be schlock.
Oh yes,
which so I'll start with the movie that turned out to not be schlock, which was Five Card Stud, starring Dean Martin and Robert Mitchum. I suppose
that's a good cast.
With that kind of casting, it's probably not going to be schlock. It's going to be really close to like a made-for-TV movie, but not schlock. And that's correct. It's like a Western giallo in a way. There's sort of like somebody's a black glove killer who's been killing these people who hung a man at the beginning of the movie over a card game. And nobody knows who it is. And my dad spoiled the shit out of this movie for me before I saw it. So I'm not going to spoil it for anybody else. I will say I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. Dean Martin is drunk for part of it, I'm pretty sure. He was not yet in his full lush phase. So there's some scenes where he's like coherent and you're having a good time watching him do what he does. But Robert Mitchum does a fucking phenomenal job. He's acting the shit out of it, opposite Dino.
Love Robert Mitchum.
So that was turned out to not be schlock. In terms of best performance, I gotta say Bill Paxton gave the best performance of all the movies I saw. I watched The Dark Backward, which is Adam Rifkin's first movie ever from the 80s. It's really fucking weird. And I maybe talked about it where like Bill Paxton is a garbage man. And so is Judd Nelson in this. And it's like an absurdist comedy. It's really dark and very fucking strange. Wayne Newton's in it. and everything is so stylized, hyper stylized, and just gross and grimy and gritty. But Bill Paxton does a great job being completely unhinged throughout the entire movie, like Nicolas Cage levels of unhinged.
Oh, wow.
I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. The movie I enjoyed as well, but not quite as much as like anytime Bill Paxton was on scene. I was just having a great time. So I would say my best performance out of Schlocktober was Bill Paxton, the late Bill Paxton, rest in peace. And then the worst performance is Bob Hartley, also known as Black Alice, who he's not black. His name's not Alice.
Okay, sure.
So I just need to clarify both of these things will confuse you because he's in a movie called Sons of Steel. It's an 1989 Australian musical. We love Australian musicals here, don't we? Everybody loves musicals. Everybody loves Australians, I'm sure. This movie is like a punk rock musical. It's anti-nuclear war. So it's kind of cool, but it also feels kind of narkish in like a, like I think most death metal or hair metal of like the 80s, you get to like a rebellion phase and people are like, just fuck it all up, like tear it down. But like this movie contains so many musical notes about like, fuck drugs, kids, they're terrible for you. And like, I don't give a shit about whatever anybody says. We shouldn't like blow people up. And it's got like these weird meters to their songs. And at the core of it is Rob Hartley singing all of those and doing a Robin Williams Popeye impression for the entirety of the film.
Oh,
with like bulked arms and all. He's just scuttling through like low budget sci-fi scenes, talking to himself in ADR. And it is like grinding on my soul just watching it. I watched it with my buddy Greg and we both thought it was going to be a rad metal musical. And then it turned into the Simpsons scene with the paint your wagon where we were like, what is this?
With blood, I bet.
Like, here comes Lee Marvin. I bet he's going to do something.
I have that movie on 4K and have not watched it yet.
Still haven't watched it.
Someday we'll watch it. But yeah, I watched the behind the scenes. They have a 15-minute featurette at the end where they interviewed Rob Hartley and some other people on the red carpet. And you could tell that everybody who was in the movie loved being in a movie. And everybody who saw the movie thought it was interesting. And they were like asked questions like, do you think this could be a cult movie? And like one lady was like, maybe give it like 10 years, but even then, I don't know. It's like, man, that's brutal coming out of a premiere to just say that immediately to that kind of question.
What kind of cult are we talking? Like maybe like a group of Scientologists could get into this shit.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I don't
How drugged up?
I don't know if the Mormons would like this.
So, yeah, Rob Hartley and Sons of Steel, it wasn't as fun of a movie. Production value is great, and I also got to see a stunt person get seriously injured, which was shocking and kind of awesome. But the rest of the movie, not great.
You probably get that once Schlocktober, right?
Yeah, it's like once a week.
You
thing,
see someone die on camera and they just left it in.
Yeah, honestly, I need to get a bingo card at this point because I did see a movie where a car exploded right when it went off a cliff, and that's like my favorite thing ever.
Oh, yeah,
like,
right.
They don't hit ground yet; they just blow it.
Amazing.
And that's it. We had one car and one set of explosives. Shit.
Yeah, we panicked. Fuck it.
And we're not going to not put this explosion in the movie.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, for anybody who's really curious, you can find out more about Schlocktober on my Letterboxd. That's, I believe it's a Loose Cannon Cop, CANON. And you can look up under the tag of Schlocktober 2024 to find my list and my ratings. And I did a review for each of them. So feel free to pick and choose what you can. But yeah. That's pretty much it for Schlocktober.
Nice. How relieved are you that you have 11 months until the next Schlocktober?
It's a weight off my chest. I don't know what I'm doing this for anymore. I think that at this point, it's tradition. Part of me feels like that scene in Blade Runner where they ask questions to Ryan Gosling anytime that he's being recalibrated.
Oh,
they're like, do you like holding hands with your lover in the park? And he's like interlinked. Like that just feels like what Schlocktober is like 31 days of like different films just shooting me in the face with like these nonsensical questions. And I'm just like, yes, of course. I understand all of these things.
Are you saying that it's like your reset period?
Yeah.
Like you are not yourself unless every year you watch 31 straight days of bullshit?
I'm starting to recalibrate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's to make sure that my baseline is still there.
I feel like every time he comes out of it and is like, oh my God, I don't know why I did this. It's awful. But then come like September.
Like 6 days later, he's watching more shit.
No, yeah,
yeah,
he's watching more shit. But I mean, by September, he's like, I got any more of them schlock movies? Like, I already got a plan. Here's what I'm going to be watching.
I'm staring at like a cardboard box that has a drawn image on it. And I'm like, shh, I'm watching the movies now. In the back alley behind Dixon's Art House movie theater. I will say the only other bonus thing out of Schlocktober is at the end of it, I saw a movie with Rainer Werner Fassbender that has now turned me on to the German New Wave. And I think, Dixon, you've watched a movie that he directed?
I have, and started, called Fox and His Friends.
Okay.
Didn't really care for it, but I know that he is, thought of as a very talented filmmaker. So I should probably revisit his filmography at some point.
Yeah, so I'm very curious to see more of his features after I watched. It was his final film before he died of cocaine overdose. So, he went out after, I think he made 40 movies. So he
died
went out on
doing
top.
what he loved.
Died doing what he loved. Cocaine and movies. Cocaine and movies, 2024. Cocaine and movies. So, yeah. Anyways, with that, I think that we can wrap this up. We have a refute for the early movies of Jim Carrey, specifically Liar, Liar, and The Mask. And Ryan's going to get back to us on Ace Ventura and the rest of Jim Carrey's filmography, the ones that he hasn't seen yet.
Yeah, I
guess he's going to watch them all over the next week while working.
Yeah, he's going to watch Dark Crime. Dark Crime is what's next.
I was interested in Dark Crime, I will admit.
You watch that, and Dixon, you watch that new Jean-Claude Van Damme movie that came out, and then we'll be back. And
okay, I can do that.
We should all watch movies with aging actors in a dark crime scenario. But yeah, so Liar, Liar refuted, The Mask refuted. There you have it, everybody. And Dixon recommended I Confess.
Correct.
He confessed to watching a good movie. There we go. We did it. And then, I ran through Schlocktober, so just look at the scoreboard and see where I'm at. Everybody loses really during Schlocktober.
How many of the 31 movies are recommends for Schlocktober?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, judging by the stars that I'm seeing, it's about 5.
Okay.
No, wait. 7. I think it's 7.
7.
I think so.
Okay.
So
that puts us at 22.5%.
Hey, there we go. We're doing all right. I would say anything greater than 0 is a win in my book. So with that, we will close it out for this episode. Thank you all for listening. I've been your host, John Garcia. Joining me as always,
Ryan King. I have watched Son of the Mask. I didn't watch that recently because I'll never watch it again. But I can just tell you that one is not good,
Jamie
John.
Kennedy?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
except Jamie Kennedy's
Kennedy.
barely in it. It's the dog. It's the dog and the baby.
No. That sounds awful. Why would you bring that up? That's darker than what I said.
Not that I would want to have more Jamie Kennedy.
We gotta stop this. I don't want to know what's next. Don't will Jamie Kennedy back into the existence here of the film. And also joining us,
Michael Dixon. Thanks for putting up with our bullshit.
Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.